Good morning, party people. Oh, that's the wrong. Let me switch over. That's off to a hilarious start. Good morning, party people. Scott says, good morning, everyone. I love maintenance weekends. Not only do I get to log hours to work, but I get to log hours to training as well. This one is tricky. So today's webcast is actually not going to be SQL Server training. It's going to be something a little bit different. Also, I'm going to forget this when I go switch over to the stream. But you see how, yes, you see how we've got like a neon green Metallica logo on here? That's going to come back to haunt me when I switch over to sharing my desktop and I show y'all things inside the VM, because that way it's going to disappear and it's going to look like I have a hole in my head, which is inappropriate in more ways than one. Good morning, Niraj. Kurt, I saw your email too, and I bet you're right. I haven't tested it yet, but I bet you're right. And I'm on a race to what I think I'm going to do, Kurt, is I'm going to, in the lab setup scripts for this week's Mastering Query Tuning, I'm just going to have a script right at the beginning in each lab that just goes through and replaces the contents of that table. Welcome, Rafael. Welcome to the club. Yeah, you will get to see Brent's brain, or lack thereof. Yes. Oh, goodness. G Surgeon says, welcome hello from a heat waving Holland. Whoa, Erica and I were just talking about weather just yesterday, about how we really kind of take for granted what the weather is like here in San Diego. We were just sitting outside enjoying we finished our 30-day alcohol fast, so we were sitting outside enjoying tequila, and then that's when we realized, it's actually really nice out here. Good morning. I don't know if you say that Mike or Mick there. So today will be a little different. For those of you who want to learn database stuff, this isn't a good stream for you today. I think you might like it because it's behind the scenes in terms of the business, stuff that I have to do as a business person and as a blogger. So I got to start blogging around of 2000 ballpark. So it's kind of crazy, but it's been 20 years, which is bananas. And if I used to keep all of the old blog posts online, but then I've gone back over time and deleted some of them. Hi, Rafal. If you're going to do a blog, one of the things that you want to do is I think of it as rolling a snowball downhill. You want your blog to continuously gain more and more traction over time so that it brings you more readers, it brings you more consulting business, training business, whatever it is that you want to do. When I got started, I didn't know why I was blogging. I just blogged because I enjoy it. I liked writing and I liked sharing what I knew, just giving away. If I learned something, then I figured someone else could learn it if I just shared it out online. Later on, you start to realize that if you work really hard at it, you know what they say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. If you do what you love and you take it a little bit more seriously and you start upping the craft, blogging can actually take care of you in terms of a career. It may not necessarily be the thing that writes your check, but it'll be the thing that gets you into the door somewhere. Someone will go, oh, I read your blog, we should bring that person in. I've known a lot of people who've gotten their next job opportunities because they had a presence online. So if I'm going to take it just a little bit more seriously, I think of it as tending to this snowball and making sure that it's going down the right path, making sure that I'm always going towards an area where there's more snow, taking care of the work that I've done earlier. I don't want to pay someone else for advertising. I want to just build really good content that y'all will be interested in. And then if I'm going to put work into building good content, I also need to make sure that people can actually find it. Oh, it's hard for people to find good content. You know how part of your job when you're running into a problem? You have to go to Google and you have to search for something, but then how do you choose what you click on? There are going to be a bunch of results. What is it that makes you go, I want to click on that thing? Part of it is probably a really compelling title. SEO. A really compelling title, something that makes you think that when you click on it, you're going to find the result. Yes, woo! I like that. That's always a good plan. I say all the time in here when I'm talking with Pinal, Gary, so that's actually really interesting too. Gary, it's so funny that you say that. Part of what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be updating some of my stuff, and I need to tweak WordPress so that it shows the most recent updated date on there, not the original publication date. Because, Gary, I'm with you. I will actually not click on something if it's 10, 15 years old because I just assume it's outdated, not that it's evergreen. And it might still be fantastic. I just will kind of discredit it because it has an older date. And I think to some extent that's true with search engines as well, that they kind of discredit stuff that's older and hasn't been updated in a while. All right, so let's talk about the process of how I do that. I use the site colon trick all the time with Google, site colon, and then whatever it is website that I'm looking for results in, like control click the top 10 results. You're one of those browser tab people, Daryl. Oh my God, you give me hives. Like I try and keep it around like 5-6 tabs open, and that's all I will ever keep open. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do this. And now you have the hole in my head, right? I'll switch over to a browser tab just so that you can see that there's a clear and distinct hole in my head. See, isn't that awesome? I love how that works. It's like the Clippy effect, but it kind of backfires. So why did I open SQL Server Management Studio? Let's come back over here so I can show you this. So if I'm going to be a blogger, there are two kinds of marketing. If I want to get the word out about the stuff that I wrote, which sounds super cheesy, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to advertise my content. No. You just want to make it easy for people to find the content that you worked really hard at. In the old days, all companies had was outbound marketing, which meant that they would pay someone else to run an ad. And you still see that. I bet, though, a lot of y'all have things like uBlock or uBlock Origin, or you have plugins that will ban ads. I know I certainly do. The web is so much better when you use things like uBlock Origin to ban all kinds of ads. So I never see most ads, and I think that it's true. Like inbound marketing also works with things like Reddit, because people will post your stuff up on Reddit if it's really good. It happens all the time. So outbound, I don't do, because you have to pay for it and you're really only renting eyeballs. You're renting eyeballs from someone else. Then inbound content is when you write really good stuff and then other people get the word out about you. Other people will say, oh, that Brent wrote this really good post on virtual machine memory management or something. That's what I really focus on, is inbound marketing, writing really good stuff, and then relying on other people, bookmarks, going viral, so that people will go, oh, Brent has this really good post on how to set cost threshold for parallelism and MaxStop, whatever. Well, if you're going to optimize inbound marketing, there are at least 3 ways that you can do it. So what I could do is I could write better content. That's not going to happen anytime soon. But no, I'm seriously, you think about it when you write content. How could I write this in a way that it will bring in the right audience for my crowd? And when I go look in a minute, I'm going to show you Google Analytics. We're going to walk through some posts. You're going to see efforts that I've made in the past to write for a specific target audience. I've talked to y'all during some of my live streams in the past about the kinds of posts I'm writing and why I'm writing it, even from years ago when I was streaming just on YouTube. Better posts. So thinking of it as, how do I build a series of posts that map up to a topic and then assemble it all into something like an ebook. Better visibility for existing posts. Go back and take the work that I've already done. For me, this is one of the biggest bang for the buck pieces. Go back, find the work that I've already written, and figure out how people found it. This isn't easy as it used to be. Google used to make it really easy to see exactly the search terms people used in order to find your content. They're less down with that these days, so it's a little bit more fumbling around in the dark. Then when I'm looking at that post, let's say I'm looking at a post about how to configure VMs in Amazon EC2. Were people's search strings matching what I thought they were looking for? Sometimes I'll write a post about something and there'll be a point in there that I didn't even really think about. Goodness, did I get that right? I think I got that right. There'll be a point in there that I didn't really think about, and yet people ended up searching for that, and there's no good content about that topic, so they end up clicking mine. So I am totally marking that one as a spam. Oh, we'll switch it to, we'll do block user, block user, block user, and I may need to switch to subscriber only chat. We'll see how that works. I can also mute the restream chat if that ends up. Because what bots do is they just put a bunch of comments in there, and I'll see. I'll keep an eye on that. If more come in, I'll just mute the screen so they don't show up there. So what I'll do is I'll find things that oddly relevant. I know, right? Well, it's because I have SEO, like search engine optimization, in today's stream title, so they go out and look for stuff like that. So can I quickly tune the content to more quickly match what people are searching for? That's what I'm going to do today, because I've often talked to you all about there are two kinds of blog posts. There are the blog posts that I write for my regular readers, people who subscribe to the feed all the time. Then there are also posts that I specifically write to be found. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see some posts that were never really meant to be found, and I'm going to try to tweak those because they are becoming popular. So how am I going to do it? Let's scroll down in through here. So the ways that I'm going to do it in today's stream is that I'm going to go look at, it's disturbingly relevant. I'm going to go look in Google Analytics, and I'm always trying to be 100% transparent with y'all. Like, a lot of people will hide their Google Analytics because either they're ashamed of them, or they think that there's some kind of competition that they're going to lose, or that maybe they have a nice pile of rewards that they built up in terms of good SEO, and they don't want to hide it to anybody else. I totally respect that. I just tend to be totally transparent because I want y'all to be able to follow in the same footsteps that I had and avoid some of the pitfalls that I stepped into. So I'm going to show you my Google Analytics. We're going to sort some pages, specifically landing pages, which means pages that people came to the blog first on, like they found me via Google results and they clicked on it. What was the first page that they came to? I'm going to sort by average position. So one of the cool things you can do in Google Analytics is you can see where your page ranked on their search results. So if my page ranked in the top 10, that means they were in their first page of views or first page of search results inside there. That's kind of good. That means I've already climbed the mountain, but then I may need to tune it so that people actually click on me. I'm going to be looking for places where I'm ranked highly, but people aren't clicking. I want to go conquer new things, and that's why you look for pages where you rank, but nobody's clicking. That means I probably need to modify the title. I need to include the keywords that they're searching for, stuff like that. I'm going to sort by impressions descending, which is going to show me things that showed up a lot in people's Google search results. But again, I'm going to specifically be looking for things that people are not clicking on so that I can tune that content and make it more relevant. I'm going to be examining their search terms so that I can go see what they were looking for, which is often a surprise to me. There's times when I just look and I'm like, what on earth? Why would people even search for that? And then I'll tune my stuff, and maybe, depending if I can, add relevant calls to action at the bottom of the post to go, hey, if you like that, you should check out these other things as well. This is really early in the morning for Surly Dev. I say early in the morning for our streamings. Like, I would expect people to have other things going on their Saturdays and Sundays. All right, so let's go jump into that, and I don't need SQL Server Management Studio open, so let's go close that guy. So here's Google Analytics. Now, it has all kinds of other cool all kinds of cool other things over on the left-hand side, but here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking specifically at landing pages over the last 30 days, which means places where people came in, landed on the blog. Now I'm going to do some filtering. So I'm going to go over to, first I'm going to sort by average position. So here I'm going to sort by average position, which means the position I was in the search results. You got to click twice because I'm actually looking for ones where I'm not number one, but like highly ranking. Then the other thing that I'm looking at is I want at least a certain number of clicks or impressions. Because these are things that, like if I only had no impressions or one or two impressions, then I don't really care. It wasn't that valuable. I want to focus on things that are a high bang for the buck, where I'm getting a lot of impressions, but nobody's actually clicking. So over here under advanced, I'm going to go under advanced and say include behavior, it's acquisition, I think it's under. So impressions, we'll say we'll look at greater than 1,000 impressions and then apply. So that now I'll see just stuff that people are looking at a lot. Okay, so let's zoom in and explain some of this stuff. So here, you see the URL over on the left-hand side. Impressions is the number of times people saw me in Google results. Clicks is the number of times they actually clicked. CTR is click-through ratio, with the percentage of people who we're not doing database training today, Mashiko. Thanks, though. Click-through ratio, the percentage of time when people actually clicked. So I'm looking for either low clicks or low click-through ratios because I'm getting a lot of impressions here. And then I'm also looking for how am I ranking? If your an average position is where I showed in terms of the search results. If you're ranked like number 1, number 2, number 3, and people still aren't clicking on you, it's either because your title and your subject just like utterly suck, or else there's really strong competition, like that there's something else that's very obvious that people should click on. I'll give you an example. SP Who Is Active. For years, my blog's been pretty highly ranked for the search term of SP Who Is Active because I had a video explaining how to use SP Who Is Active. I'm not going to bother competing with things like whoisactive.com and the GitHub page for SP Who Is Active because those are the places that people should naturally go. So even though I rank pretty well, I don't expect to get a lot of clicks and I'm not going to optimize for that. Same in here. So now I don't really care about login, training my videos. Team, that's kind of funny. So I should also say too, I haven't looked at this in probably 2 years or 3 years. Search engine optimization is kind of, I mentioned a snowball going downhill. You can ignore it for a while and it'll still continue to go downhill. It just may not go downhill in the ways that you would like it to, or it may go downhill in a more other version of the word downhill, right? Things may go south. So what I want to do is start spending a little bit more time tending this garden. Not because my SEO has started to suck, but just because all of a sudden I was like, ooh, I haven't tended the garden in a while. I need to go work on that a little bit. So here, I've got the top login and training my videos. I don't really care. Team Brent Ozar, if somebody wants to find me, I mean, I guess I'm kind of okay with them finding me regardless of however they find me. It is interesting just that it's gotten 1,000 impressions and only 12 clicks, so I probably need to tune that. That's probably true, Mike. I should search for in here. It's funny. You can also put in filtering and you can put in keywords like Richie, and then you can see, you can even do advanced filtering where you can search by author name, for example. So let's come back over here. So now with that, that's actually interesting. CX consumer is not so harmless, not so fast, Tiger. Something like 20% of people are actually clicking through. This isn't my post. This is Eric Darling's post. So I might go, all right, how did this rank with like 3,000 impressions? And it's getting us a rank of like 4. Well, what's it getting around? Ryan, welcome to the club. What's it getting a rank of that high for? Like, what's the reason that people are clicking that much on it? So in order to find out, I'm going to go click on it. And if I click on it, it's going to go launch, or it's going to go drill down and see, let me pick alternate details, like, for example, what were the keywords that people were using, so here we go. It turns out that people are searching for CX consumer, CX wait type and SQL Server, reserved memory allocation extension. Wow, I'm shocked that people would be clicking on that. So it's interesting that we weren't even working on this, and look at how high we're ranked. So we're ranked like number 3 for a lot of those weight types, and we didn't even really try to. So we should probably do something about that. Now, I'm going to go open up a web browser and I'm going to search for CX Consumer. You should know that when I search for things inside of Google, Google tunes their search results for me. They tune their search results based on whoever's doing the searching. So I don't expect, I don't expect to see us at number 3 or number 4. We may actually be higher. So now, here's what, one of the things I love about Google is they put in your incognito isn't enough because they use your IP address as well. So, and I have opened up VMs in Amazon, for example, open up and build a brand new VM from Amazon right from scratch and then go and work on it. So here, if we look at CX Consumer, here are the top 4, but that's just totally a coincidence. I'm less worried about who's in the top 4 or 3, 4. I'm more worried about why are people clicking on this and what can I do to get more people to click on this. All right, so these are the top 4 inside here. So if you look at why people are clicking, I can see why. This is kind of compelling. CX Consumer is harmless, not so fast, Tiger. CX 20 or SQL Server 2017 CU3 adds CX Consumer, doesn't whatever. So both of these in here, what can I do to make them more compelling to people? Both of these posts, I always talk about 2 kinds of blog posts. There's the kind you write for your regular readers. That's what both of these are. These are very clearly for our regular readers. They're not for random Google searching. So these are great examples of blog posts that I may want to tune real fast. So what do I mean by tuning? Have a sip of my tasty beverage. So what I want to do is when these blog posts first went out, they were written for you. They were written for the regular reader, but you've already done reading them. You're not reading these posts from 2018 anymore, unless you find them in your Google search results. So now that they've aged off a little, that they're a couple of years old, I don't need to worry about the tone of voice that we use in the post. What I can do is go back and edit it so that it's more focused on the kinds of people who are searching for CX Consumer weight type. Because now this thing is, of course, you're still reading them, but you're finding them in Google. It's not like you're going back through our posts one at a time. And if you are, heaven help you, you're going to have an absolutely terrible time. Good afternoon, Eamon. And Eamon, thanks again for the kind words on LinkedIn. I appreciate that. That was very nice. So I'm going to edit the posts and I'm going to make them more compelling for the kinds of people who are searching and via Google, like what is the CX Consumer weight type? But you know what? I don't want to be too generic because look at what is in the other top 4 right now. So the other top 4, number 1 and number 2 are Paul and Kim, are the Paul Randall and Kimberly Tripp over at SQL Skills. And if you look, so like number 1, that's not compelling at all. It's just a bunch of numbers. So obviously that isn't going to work well in terms of SEO. I can see why people are skipping number 1. Number 2, this looks, if you read through this, what history and what you need to know. Hi, Brent, or hi, Meryl. The new weight type was initially added, blah, 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 blah. So I can see why people are skipping that too, because it doesn't seem like it was written by a human being and it doesn't seem like it's going to solve their problem. So in here, I can see why people are clicking on this. Let's say you got a query and the point of that query is to take your largest customer and compare their act. You like storytelling is getting started. There's a story. I'm interested in learning more about that. So let's go edit both of these posts. So I'm going to open both of these in a new tab here and come back over. Now, Contact Administrator talking about the CX Packet post, that's an exact example of a post that I went back and edited over time because I saw people were searching for certain kinds of terms. So I keep going back and editing that post to make it more relevant to the people who are coming through in Google. So here's Eric's post. Eric's post says, CX Consumer is harmless, not so fast, Tiger. And see here how it's got the initial snippet from Google. So now I'm going to edit this thing and I'm going to make it, it sounds kind of bad, but I'm going to take some of Eric's personality out of there and I'm going to kind of make it more friendly for people who are searching for CX Consumer who've never heard about it before. So the first thing that we know is when we were looking over at Google Analytics, here are the terms that people were searching for. So now you're going to watch what I do based on that knowledge. And then I'm going to flip around and say, is the CX Consumer weight type harmless, not so fast target. I paid him what is called salaries. So and I always try to, pay people really well while they're working here so that they're happy with the stuff that they do. So it says, let's say you got a query, and the point of that query is to take your largest consumer and this isn't really storytelling. Now it's getting started, but I'm going to tweak this a little bit. If SQL Server doesn't balance that work appropriately, or doesn't balance that work evenly across multiple threads, you can experience the CX consumer and or CX packet weight types. To illustrate it, to show how SQL Server ends up weighting, let's write a query that, and then let's go through and just cut his in here. So there we go. He's got a link in here. It's really interesting in that, Fullbring, we talked about that a little bit right in the earlier. I don't want to overload the title, though. There's only so far I want to go into the title. So in here, whenever you do a link, you immediately give the user a reason to go there. And I don't want to give their user a reason to go there if it's not in my best interest. So Eric used to be blogging about his beefy desktop. I'm just going to take that out. And I'm going to take out that entire sentence altogether because that actually makes sense. Get rid of that. And then, so that's all good. Let's go down. Now, anytime that you see a heading, Google uses those headings in order to figure out whether content makes sense for someone. So this heading makes sense with Eric's writing style and the way that he liked to tell stories. But now that I'm trying to capture more audience over time, I need to tweak that so that it's more relevant to what people are looking for. So this query goes parallel and experiences and goes parallel, gets CX consumer weights. We'll stop there. You always kind of want to make it seem kind of natural too. So in here, in serial. And now I'm going to take advantage of what I know from readers. So people will sometimes say, can MaxStop1 fix CX consumer weights or fix CX packet weights? And Google also likes it when there are questions and natural language answers because they love showing natural language answers to people in their results. So can I fix CX consumer weights with MaxStop1? Yes, but my query will run slower. In most cases, yes, but in most cases, my query will run slower. However, in this case, because SQL Server wasn't balancing the work evenly across multiple threads, adding enter. All right, let's go down. It's the right, and so here he says in closing. I do kind of want to recap here, like I want to use a header, but I don't know that I want to say that. I'm going to say CX consumer weight types don't mean you should set MaxStop to 1. There we go. I'm going to leave that one. I don't really know where he's going with there, and I'm not going to skim on. Yep, that's fine. Thanks for reading. Okay, so now at the very bottom, now this is where you may go into calls to action, and you may go, okay, if you found this interesting, here are other things that you may find interesting, because I want to be able to lead them down a path to determine their server's top weight types, use SP Blitz first, buy our training classes, whatever. So I'm going to say, what to learn next. And I'll make that a heading. Now before, you can see that the call to action that I used to have in there was a conference pre-con that we were doing years ago. And we still do the mastering server tuning class. But instead here, I'm going to give them how to do a performance health check, how to measure your server's top weight types with SP Blitz first, and then how to fix CX Consumer and CX Packet from our Mastering Server Tuning class. Let's go get those links. I don't know if that one's right. Is that that's the sales product? I'm not going to do that one. So let's delete that. So I have a post on how to do a performance health check for SQL Server. Let's go grab that. It's not in the top. That's great. There we go. Yeah, sure, I'll start there. Copy and paste. SP Blitz first. There, and copy and paste, and then mastering servers, brentozar.com, go master servers, and in there we have a module on parallelism, so that is abnormal parallelism, copy, and I'm going to go with the normal parallelism module first, copy, and then boom. Paste. All right, there we go. So let's update that. Okay, so what did I just do? Come back over here. So what I did was I looked at a post that was ranking really well. And in this case, it got a decent number of clicks, but it wasn't really perfectly suited for what people are searching for. It's way easier to go back and adapt an existing post than it is to write a new post from scratch, especially on a topic as hard as CX Packet or CX Consumer. So it's really all about getting that snowball to keep picking up additional readers. I didn't rewrite the content of the post. I didn't tweak it in a dramatic way. I wish WordPress would show the updated date in there up at the top, but I'm not going to solve that inside this morning's session. I'm just going to go through and pick out some really low-hanging fruit to make it easier for Google to send more people my way. B-News says, can you please explain latch EX weights also? Absolutely, I do in the Mastering Server Tuning class. If you check out the Mastering Server Tuning class, I have a whole module because those are tied together, CX Consumer, CX Packet, and latch EX. Do you like that subtle plug? Pay me. All right, so now let's hit the next one. Let's go see what's going on in the next one. So that was at first the post. The second one said CX 2017 CU3 adds CX consumer weights and doesn't mention it. I am stunned that this post would have any search engine optimization at all. I'm stunned that people would be clicking on this in the year 2020. That is insane. That tells you how little info is out there about CX consumer, which I also kind of like in it is showing y'all things that you can blog about that are still lots of low-hanging fruit. Because I know some people are like, oh, it's all been written about. This is such a great example that there's still so much that hasn't been written about. So we'll do a quick tweak inside there. No, CGS, no, I'm good, thanks. I do okay. Thank you, though. SQL Server, and so in here I'm going to say SQL Server 20, I'll leave that in, adds CX Consumer, adds a new CX Consumer weight type. And then I'm just going to take out some of, I get that this was funny when we originally wrote it, but it's not, it makes less sense now today when we're talking about CU or talking about weight types. Same thing in here. I'm going to try to just edit this down to make it more intuitive for folks to read today if they're going to go back and find search results. So Microsoft's Pedro Lopes announced that a new parallelism, and it's out. The new weight type is CX Consumer, and I'm actually going to rewrite it because we know that Google puts kind of the first sentence up at the top, so I'm going to rewrite it to put it up there. SQL Server 2017's new CX Consumer weight type was originally announced by Microsoft's Pedro Lopes, and we'll switch this around. Announced by Microsoft's Pedro Lopes. And now it's and now, and thanks to, and now it's out. Here's what it means for performance tuners. There we go. According to Pedro, this weight type is the safe type of weight type as opposed to the CX packet weight type, which means work isn't evenly balanced across all of our cores. Pedro blogged about this. Pedro blogged about how CX Consumer makes parallelism weights actionable. Now let's make sure that link still works, because Microsoft has this terrible habit of, yes! Oh, you know what? It's a different location though now. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to update the location, because it used to be blogs MSDN, but now it's docs. Okay, cool. Hi, Dixie. Welcome to the club. And now I'm going to go delete all of this. I get that this contents of this made sense when that was originally written, but it doesn't make sense now. So now let's see, where does CX Consumer show up? And let's tighten this up just a little. I'm going to leave the rest of that the way it is. CX Consumer isn't actually ignorable. I'm gonna leave that in. So let's say where or what to learn next. And you know what? I'm going to copy this exactly out of the other post. Let's copy this exactly as is. Let's see here. That was over here. Here we go. Open a new tab. And come down into here and take the stuff that we did. Now, of course, I would never browse the web at this Zoom level. This is the only that I do now that we're together on the stream. All right, there we go. So let's update that, and there we go. So, I mean, that takes a little bit of time. So you saw me kind of working at that for a little while. And how I got here is I was looking at what are posts that are doing really well from a ranking perspective, but the material isn't necessarily matching what I would want. So that was way up there, really high. It was getting like 3,000 impressions. It actually had a really good click-through ratio, but I wouldn't be surprised. See, here's this other one. This other one only got 61 hits. This is where I was laughing that I can't believe anybody would actually click on it, because it didn't make any sense back then. Now, that's probably going to, both of these are probably going to go up higher in position, but then they'll also get more clicks in as well. So to stop and talk about that for a second, this is really what the work of a blogger is really long-term. Once you decide to get serious about something, you put so much work into writing a really good blog post, and then it kind of turns into crickets. You don't get any comments about it. It feels like no one's looking around. You're like the John Travolta gif. If you go back in and look at Google Analytics, you can find what people are searching for, and then you can adapt your blog posts to just be more evergreen. Quick shout out to this week's sponsor. So Quest just published published an ebook. I thought it was on with advice from all three of us, but it sounds like I heard from a couple of y'all that it's really just advice from Janice, which is okay. Janice is smart too. I'm down with that. But it's an expert guide to SQL Server query tuning, and she's got advice in there on how you go about tuning your queries. I still haven't read it yet. I'm a bad person. But you know, I'm doing okay on query tuning. I think it's all right. I do constantly learn. I am still constantly learning. All right, let's go see what else we have in there next. So we saw, oh man, this is so good actually. So the Blitz documentation, yep, I'm not surprised about that. Blitz forced parameterization and non-sargeable predicates. I just in a recent stream, I wrote about this, and I was talking to y'all about that one. I have cleaned up a little bit on some of both of these pages recently, so I'm going to leave those as is. We just talked about this one. This is kind of interesting. You know, I was just talking about who is active, ranking really highly for SP who is active, but not wanting to compete on it. Thank you, the other Brent. So down here, it says Ola Hollengren's maintenance scripts are now on GitHub. We got 3,500 impressions and only 6 clicks. Six clicks. Same thing with this one down here. Both of these just have stellar work that we can do. Now, I don't necessarily want to be number 1 ranked for this. Well, let's see. So we're ranked like number 5. But I want to see what people are searching for. I have a hunch that people are searching for Ola Hollengren GitHub, in which case I'm never going to rank number 1, nor do I want to. But I do want to look to see, what this post is ranking for. Oh, look at that. It's not even GitHub. It's just plain old Ola Hollengren. Wow. I emailed him and I haven't heard back. So if anyone knows how Ola is doing, like let the community know. Let me know, because I've emailed him twice now trying to find out if everything's okay, and I haven't heard back from him, and he hasn't been on GitHub for quite a while. So let's go see what happens when we search for Ola Hollengren. Let's just Google for Ola Hollengren and go see what comes up. So good. So I would expect Ola's stuff to be el numero uno. If I scroll down a little further, see, okay, good. We're not even on the page, which is good. I wouldn't want us to really be on that page. And I also wanted to make sure that they were linking to Ola Hollengren's GitHub. I'm going to go scroll. What? Related searches, Brent Ozar, Ola Hollengren? AJ, you can either Google my name and then Google for streaming. I can teach you how to use Google. Google, it's up at the top of the screen there. Google. It's pronounced Google. So if you Google for Brent Ozar streaming, there's several places which you can sign up, right? If you want to learn how to use Google, that site is LMGTFY. That's let me Google that for you. And then you can hand that off to your friends. So when they ask for questions like that, you can show them how to use Google. It's amazing I haven't been murdered by now. So I was kind of surprised that Brent Ozar, Ola Hollengren would show up in the list. I can't not click on that because I'm really curious what would show up. So in here, tweaking the defaults, I've been meaning to change some of these, and today's going to be the day to do it. What on earth? That top snippet isn't even from the post. It's from a comment. That's terrible. I'm embarrassed that would even show up as the snippet that would come up there. We've been running Ola Hollengren maintenance script and ran into a problem. Oh, man, come on. All right, so I'm going to tweak that one just because we're in here. So let's hit Edit Post. And then I'm going to say, instead of tweaking the defaults, I'm going to say how to configure Ola Hollengren's maintenance scripts. So that's fine. This is fine. How to change that? That's all fine. I'm also going to say how to download Ola Hollengren's. Now I'm going to stop it there. That's perfect. Okay, so that's Ola Hollengren's. I'm not going to try and rank it all for that one because, of course, he should rank el numero uno, and I'm not about to write more content in for that. It's true, every single day. We used to always come up with slow in the app, fast in SSMS. This one blows me away. What on earth? So I did a stream with y'all about the SQL Server community and writing a blog post for that. What on earth are people searching for that shows up? That is so weird. What are people, this is such a great example of what I was talking about at the beginning of the hour, about how sometimes people are searching for something. They're just desperately looking for community. What on earth? If you search for Brent Ozar, this was number 5? That's bananas. You people concern me. So that's just bizarre. Okay, all right. So now I have to search for that. So let's go see Brent Ozar wife. Let's go see what comes up. My wife is going to absolutely die at this. That is so awesome. So what seal? I have no idea. So the one on the top left is when I was going to college. I had long hair like Nirvana kind of thing. This one is when I lived in Houston, Texas, right before I met Erica. That's an IBM with one of those modular webcams that could plug in on top of the, they are correct, plug in on top of the laptop. I absolutely adored that. This is not my wife. That is Kendra Little from the company Retreat. That is Jeremiah Peshka's wife. Kendra and Jeremiah are married. That's another zoomed in. Hi, Waring. Yeah, that is not my wife either. That is Eric Darling. His lovely tattoos. Very nice. This is my hourglass. Now, what's interesting is that is my wife. That right there. My wife hardly ever allows photos of her to be go public. So that right there is actually my wife. And if you click on it, I'm sure there's a much nicer, higher resolution version of it. So let's see here, clicking in on there. Yep, there we go. So my wife is that one right there, and why she's looking over in that direction, I have no idea, but I love that photo though. It's really good. All right. So there you have it. That's very interesting. Now I have to SEO for Brent Ozar's wife. That's very intriguing. Okay, so the fact that that came up so high really surprises me. That video post. So let's go search for Brent Ozar. Now Brent Ozar wife is going to be in my search history. Oh, geez. Can you please start SQL for Microsoft exam? Sure, if you would like an exam, please take your pants down and bend over. And I don't think you're going to pass this exam. So if I zoom in, okay, so when you usually search for Brent Ozar, all right, this stuff all makes sense. If I go down and scroll a little further, wow, so that's why. So there's that video right there. That's really interesting that people would click on that. That's incredible. All right, well, y'all are kind of weird. So that's the top page of those. And you can see that the way when I sorted this, I sorted it by position. So the average position, I was getting stuff where I'm mostly on the home page. I'm going to tweak it around and I'm going to sort it a little bit differently here. I'm going to sort by high impressions. So let's hit this, and then I'm probably going to have to hit it again. All right, so these are pages where I got a high number of impressions, and I'm looking for rows where I got a very low number of clicks, because these are things that I got to, not my minions, yours. Ones where I didn't get hardly any clicks, and I'm really curious as to why the click-through is so bad. Look, the position on that one's amazing. So I'm on the front page, and I'm only getting 19 clicks. I'm like, all right, what's going on? What are people searching for that this post is just nowhere near relevant? And then this one is interesting. This is a position of 29. Now go all the way across to the left. So this has gotten 30,000 impressions, even though I'm all the way down at 29. What does that tell you? When was the last time you searched Google for something and you clicked onto the second page of results and then the third page of results? I don't know. It's been years since I've gone to the third page of Google results, because if the thing that I'm looking for isn't in the top 2 pages, I change my key terms. I change the search terms that I'm looking for, because I'm probably looking for the wrong thing. If I went into yes, exactly. Someone is really, really desperate. So when you see stuff like this, you're like, oh my God, what are people looking for that they're so desperate for content that they go all the way down here? So it'll be really interesting to see the search terms that is too. Now, I don't want to SEO for Streamlabs OBS. I don't want to be famous for that, but I am really curious just because we're in here. This one, though, is really interesting. I'm on the home page for something, average of like 6, and then, that's interesting. I search engine optimization for, what's the Swedish chef speak? Orfty burfty burf. So what on earth are people searching for that I suck that bad? So let's go in and see. So what are the search engine terms that are driving people to this how to think like the engine post? Let's see what it is. Oh yeah, whoa, no, 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 no. I am not going to write blog posts about how to use the select statement in SQL. That's just way too widespread. Great, glad you liked it. So I'm not going to write for that kind of thing. I have no interest in gaining people on how to write a select. I'm just not into that market at all. So I'm going to back my way out of that one. I don't care about that post. The Streamlabs post, I'm going to click on just because I'm curious. What are people searching on that they're so desperate for Streamlabs OBS content? And let's see what their keywords are. Okay, so Streamlabs, how to use Streamlabs, how to download. How desperate are these people on the top, like how to use Streamlabs? This is also just an interesting side content. If you want to make a lot of money, you have one of two options. You could really aim low, like you could aim for how do I use Microsoft Excel? How do I use Windows? How do I use my iPhone? How do I do copy paste? Skills that a lot of people need to learn how to use, but you can't charge a lot of money for that. When you're going out to the wide public, it's really hard to get the wide public who are just like, how do I use Streamlabs OBS? It's really hard to get $5 from them. Or you could go super deep. How do I implement partitioning on a billion row table? And people are like, $100, let's do this. Come on. Because it's hard to find content on that. And the pain is really expensive. So could I go through and write blog posts about how to use Streamlabs OBS and suddenly get 100,000 more subscribers? Yeah, but who cares? There's no money at the end of that rainbow. There's no pot of gold for me there. And I have better things to do than go and write that stuff. I only have so many hours in the day. I want to conquer new viewers that are relevant to me, so that doesn't really do me any good. Okay, so much for the Streamlabs content. Let's go back over into here. Now, with the rest of these, given the rest of these and the contents that's inside here, are there any posts where I think I want to do better? Check out number 3. So I should say number 2. Number 2 on how to count the number of rows in a SQL Server table. I'm stunned by that's been doing great since Jess Schultz wrote that 6 years ago. Like, it's just timeless content, and I've tweaked it over time to SEO it better, but I'm not going to get any new readers out of there. It's just people need a quick hit, and that's the end of it. Number 3, I specifically wrote live on a stream. If you go back through my streams, you can see on last year when I wrote that thing live, specifically trying to get search results, and it worked. Like, all the tactics that I explained inside the video worked beautifully. This one we talked about, I don't care about. It's like the select. This one I don't care about, Streamlabs OBS. This is interesting to me. SQL Server always on availability groups. I forgot I even had this page. That's bananas. And only 3% of rows are clicking through, and I'm averaging on the front page of Google results. I don't do always on availability groups tuning or training anymore. It's kind of a pain in the rear. It keeps changing all the time, and keeping up with it is really hard work, and it doesn't have that high of market adoption rates. So I'm curious what the page looks like, just in terms of what the thing looks like. So, oh God, it's terrible. Okay, I can see why it does well. How to set up SQL Server always on availability groups, gotchas and problems with availability groups. Holy smokes, that video is so old. Wow. Managing availability groups. I don't think I'm going to change. I don't think I'm going to even bother working on that page because I don't care that much about availability groups anymore. Zooming in a little. Oh, funny. Scott was on that page yesterday. Oh, very cool. SQL Server performance tuning. Oh, that's interesting. We're not on the home page. We're on slot 19, or averaging 19 out of the search results. So what are people searching for that takes them to that page? And that number 8 is Richie's too as well. How to select specific columns out of an entity framework query. And it's averaging just on the 15th page. We could probably SEO that and do a little better there as well. So for this one, let's look at the performance tuning page, because I am all about that. What is going on there? What terms are people searching for, and then how can I tune that page to make it a little bit more relevant? So SQL Server performance tuning, SQL performance tuning, SQL Server performance, performance tuning, and SQL Server. I think we see a theme here: performance, 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 performance. Performance, performance, performance. So let's go copy that. Oh, it's also interesting to see what are the, what are the search rankings for each of those terms. So I can see that for performance tuning, we're on the home page, SQL performance tuning on the home page, SQL Server performance. Let's go see out of curiosity what happens with that top line. If I search for, and it's hilarious, performance tuning? How performance tuning? Just the keyword performance tuning. We're on 18. That's an example of how Google customizes the results, how it customizes the search results just directly for your queries, because I guarantee you someone who's into cars would never have that appear on 19th in their search results. It's just because they're tailoring this for people who are doing SQL Server work. So let's see what happens when we search for SQL Server performance tuning. So come back in over here. Toto says how this tag will help. Oh, Marjan says what app? And it's good to see you again, Marjan. I use WordPress. WordPress, it's phenomenal. I've been using it for 15, 16 years. Just amazing. So SQL Server performance tuning, if I scroll down, wow, look at that. So that's why performance tuning for SQL Server. This is like classic search engine optimization. Performance tuning, performance tune, performance tune, performance tune, performance tune. Well, I can see why that's on the home page, but I'm not really proud of what's inside there. Let's go see if we click on that. All right, how to do performance tuning in SQL Server. It's giant. I love this. I love a good sentence with you. Let me zoom this in so that you can see it. This is the way that I try to write these days. I try to literally write to you, like you're sitting on the, not you personally, but a person on the other side of the screen. And I'm like, you are having this problem. Here's because you want them on the other side of the screen to go, yes, 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 that's me. He's talking to me. He knows me. He loves me despite my defects. And there are many. So we'll teach you SQL Server performance tuning and a series of easy free tutorials. Great. I love it. But it looks like boiled butthole across the top with no videos and no pictures whatsoever. Tons of defects. So if I scroll down, I can see why measure how to optimize. This is all cool, but I kind of want to put videos on here. And also it says we. It has we, and it's not we anymore. I'm the only person here. Now that I decided to stop having consultants, I probably should rewrite this to be more I. So I'm actually going to copy paste that out, and I'm going to put that into my tasks. Normally, I would open up Remember the Milk right about here, but the problem is that if I open up Remember the Milk, it's probably going to show something else. So rewrite this page, and I'm just going to save this. I'll put this down here and deal with that later. So I'm not going to rewrite that whole one on the stream because that's kind of a lot of work. So let's come back out of here, and we'll do one more page. If I come down into here, and it says, so we talked about Richie's, how to select specific columns in Entity Framework. If I tuned that, I would find more developers. I mean, I don't know that we're averaging way down on, yeah, sure, screw it, let's do it. We're averaging way down in placement number 15, which means we're on the second page of Google results. Let's go click on there and see what they're searching for to see if there's anything that's easy to tweak, like anything that we can add to the post to just magically make it easier to find. So let's click on it. We'll see their search terms. And no way are we SEOing for that. Absolutely not. No way are we doing any of those. So this is the one that Richie's post is really about. And it's averaging 1.1 on there. So my problem is really just that the rest of that stuff sucks. Why is Database Killer not in there? I actually love Entity Framework. I like it a lot. And so this comes up a lot with database administrators, and I always feel like I have to explain it. So, I know a lot of database administrators who are like, Entity Framework sucks, Link to SQL sucks, and Hibernate sucks, Snapper sucks. Developers should write their own queries by hand. You think they're going to be good? You think that if you just all of a sudden say, developers, you have to write all your T-SQL by hand, you think it's going to be good T-SQL? It's kind of like me saying to you, you shouldn't use Management Studio. You should build your own app by hand with C#. If you're going to query the database, you should have C#. You should be managing, open up Visual Studio, write your own application. Hot pants, whatever it is that I would call you. So that I just would tell people, don't think that it's going to be suddenly better. Merlin says you think that they should write complex queries by hand. Are you kidding me? I teach training classes, and I see the T-SQL that y'all write. And I do demos, and I show you how your T-SQL sucks, and people are like, oh my God, I had no idea. All these things that I've been doing for years, it turns out they were completely wrong. And I'm like, yeah, because you haven't been to a training class in 10 years. I know these crusty old database administrators who are like, everyone should write queries by hand. And I'm like, when was the last training class you went to? Well, 1982. I'm like, well, so you haven't learned anything since 1982? Well, I read blogs sometimes. Mostly it's the Kardashians' blogs, but sometimes I read a SQL Server blog. Toto, yes, absolutely. They give homework. They get live running workloads, and they have to fix the queries. They get 1 hour in order to fix the queries. They turn their homework into me, and I ask them tough questions about the homework. So just because people think, they're like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years. You've been doing the same damn thing for 10 years. You've been sucking for 10 years. You haven't done any kind of professional discipline training. So of course your queries are going to be terrible. Now, if you do the same thing with developers, if you all of a sudden say, you got to write every query by hand, it's going to be like chiseled in stone with a potato. It's not like it's going to be any good. It is so easy to write terrible T-SQL. And at least with things like Entity Framework, the language continues to get better. The framework continues to get better. So it continuously writes better queries. You can recompile the application a year from now, and you can end up getting better queries. Now, you need to learn how to use the tool, but if I'm going to have developers learn how to use a tool, I'd rather they learn how to use Entity Framework and make it perform instead of having them drop everything and learn T-SQL and how it performs, because it sucks. It's really hard work. Now, I love learning SQL, of course. I'm a SQL Server trainer. I teach you how to make it go faster, but I just know that it's hard. There are so many pitfalls, and that's what we talk through in the training classes. Okay, so I'm happy with that. We looked at Richie's one. I'm okay with that. The Twitter posts I don't care about anymore. That's like the example of writing for Streamlabs. I wrote a couple of posts on how to use Twitter, like right when I first got started with it. I was one of the early users of Twitter, and so they still have a lot of traction. I just don't care, and I don't even update those. What's so bad about shrinking databases with DBCC ShrinkDB? I actually wrote that on purpose for SEO. I wrote that so that it would get clicks to teach people why to stop doing that. So I'm okay with that post as well. All right, so that's the first page of stuff that's getting a lot of results. I'm going to go to the next page and just look. Oh, it warms my heart. Number 11, just completely up there, just warms my heart. Using no-lock, here's how you get bad query results. I did this on purpose in a demo in a video saying, here you go, if you run your query this way, here's how you're going to get the wrong query results. That's great that it's number 9. That's fantastic. Now I'm really curious, what are people searching for? So let's go see how to use no-lock to make my queries go faster. Let's go see. I'm so curious. Big money, no whammies. Oh, okay. All right. I love it. With no-lock, SQL with no-lock, no-lock SQL. They're not querying the problems necessarily. They're just querying with no-lock, just by itself, with no-lock. That's so interesting. What do you find if you search for with no-lock? And wow, with no-lock best practices, understanding the impact of with no-lock. Coming down here, using with no-lock. Here you go, that's me down there. Using no-lock, here's how you'll get the wrong query results. I don't really like the snippet that Google picked, and I can override that by hand, but I don't know that I'm going to do that. I am curious about, though, this might be a really good blog post to write, because SQL Shack, I really respect the SEO that SQL Shack does. They do a really good job of writing posts that are evergreen and have a lot of results over time. I might do a no-lock FAQ. I might write a post about if you're going to use no lock with SQL, here's what you should do, or here's what you should be aware of. Now, it's a little tricky because we talk about the two kinds of blog posts. The one kind of blog post is that it's for my regular readers. The other kind is for search engine optimization. When you write one for search engine optimization, it can piss off your regular readers. Like if I write an introduction to no lock, my regular readers are going to be like, that Brent, he's so stupid. He only writes about level 100 topics. But if you write about level 100 topics, that's about how you grow your readership over time and you bring new people into the snowball. So I think I might actually write a post on no lock. Or do a video stream about no lock, like what it is, why people use it, especially because I don't see anything in here that's a video. Let's scroll down and see if there's a video. There's not. There's not a video on here. Let's look at videos. Wow, SQL Shack has one that's with no lock best practices. Should we use no lock? That's interesting. Burt Wagner, okay. And then mine, that's only 15 seconds long. That was a silent demo though. Okay, so this is interesting. I might actually want to do a no-lock post and video. All right, so I'm going to write that down in terms of my tasks. Let's get that note back up here. Write a blog post about no-lock and do a stream with a longish video explaining it. So we'll save that too. All right, good. I like that. When you're looking at Google Analytics and you're looking at search terms, you do have to be careful in that you're only looking at stuff that your readers have found you by. The tips are all going to be related to the content you already have. Google Analytics doesn't recommend keywords based on content you don't have yet. You have to use other tools if you want to go explore and figure out what are good keyword contents to go use for acquisition. This SQL syntax examples, cursor example, this is part of an experiment. And I'll pull up the post just so that you can see it. Google Webmaster Tools. Yes, absolutely. That's integrated with the stuff that I'm looking at here. So a long time ago, I had an experiment. I was like, what would it be like to write content specifically trying to acquire new users via Google search? And so I paid the employees back when Eric, Tara, Doug, when all those folks worked for me, I would pay them as part of their job to go through and write posts about, I want a start to finish example on here's how you write a cursor. Here are the problems with the cursors. Here are things that you need to go consider. Very cute. When cursors are okay, a training video on cursors, more cursor resources. So I was like, I know that this is going to take a really long time to build traction because it wasn't a blog post. It was just a page that we buried on the site that you kind of had to know about in order to get to. So it's a really long-term bet. If I go in here, I'm going to pull this and we're going to look at it. Oh, that's actually, what version of SQL Server is really good. Oh, that's fantastic. So if I look at this one post over time, I'm going to look at it from, I don't know that I don't have the integration done. So people are searching for SQL cursor example, all that. I don't know that there's really a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow either. Like, I don't know that people who search for that are really going to want to subscribe or get training, but it's interesting that it did gradually improve over time, that it has gotten popular even though we don't publicize it at all. And then finally, the last one I'll talk about before a bio break, which version of SQL Server should you use? This was another one where I purposely wrote right from the get-go as, I'm going to write this for people who are finding me in Google. I'm going to write for people who are asking the question, what version of SQL Server should I use? So in here, it's gotten 27,000 people who've seen it in the Google search results. About 4% have clicked. That's not bad considering, it's on the third page. So people click past 1 through 10. People click past 10 or 11 through 20. So what are they searching for that drives them all the way down in the search results to my page? because of course these are only the search terms that people use that went all the way back. So, that's interesting. What version of SQL Server do I have? Wow. I never thought about writing a post for that. What version of SQL Server do I have? And those are interesting. SQL Server 2019 versus 17, 2016 versus 17. This totally makes sense because clients ask me that all the time. What should I use, 2017 or 2019? Now, the post that's in here, if I say, which version of, or we'll say SQL Server 2017 versus 2019. I'm in videos. Let me go switch over to all. So what's new? What's new is always big. Like if you say what's new in SQL Server 2019, that's a timeless thing that people really enjoy. Here, I'm number 3 on this, but it's only because Google's customizing the results for me. So here's that post. Which version of SQL Server should you use? So these headings made sense when I wrote it, but they don't today. Oh, that's interesting because this doesn't match what people are searching for. What I could search for it, or what I could change this as, SQL Server 2019 versus 2017, SQL Server 2016 versus 2017, and have sections for each version. Oh, that's exactly what I'm going to do. All right, so I'm going to make a note of that and I'm going to work on that. I might work on that after the break. We'll see here. SEO these for SQL Server 2016 versus 2017 style headings and paste that. Okay, so we've been going for about an hour now. I'm going to stop here just to shift gears. We'll go to a bio break. So we'll go to a bio break, and then after the bio break, I'll switch into open questions and answers, and I'll let you all ask me anything. It can be related to blogging, to WordPress, to Google Analytics, or just general SQL Server stuff. So feel free to put your questions in now, and then I'll hit those after the bio break. I'm going to go make myself some fresh coffee, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. So I'll see y'all in 5. welcome back. No one typed in questions over the break, so I think we're good in terms of questions. And Alex, yeah, I use this. So Pretzel is this stream safe deal so that I can not worry about licensing. You just pay Pretzel one flat fee and you can play whatever you want from their library. So then, because things like Facebook and Twitch will take your video down if you're not licensed for the music correctly. Okay. So, since y'all didn't ask questions, I'm going to keep going with my day job and keep going with the work inside here. So, one of the things that, NSI says, or NS Important says, how to efficiently reuse, not copy paste the same T-SQL on standard edition because views and functions are slow. They're not. So, views don't have a performance overhead by themselves. The problem isn't the views, it's the code that you put inside the views. And for functions, you want to search for inline functions. I want to say Aaron Bertrand has a good post on this. So if we say SQL Server inline function, I want to say he wrote one for MS SQL tips. Maybe not. This is good. Hutmakers is good here. I believe he has the differences between the two. Beautiful. Perfect. So what to search for is SQL Sunday table, or I'll pull down so you can see his name. Table valued functions versus inline functions by Daniel Hutmacher, and he breaks down the differences between the two. Inline functions are fast; they're really quick and easy. Table valued functions are slow, and of course that's the short version of it. So there's your answer when you want to reuse code, not copy paste it. Make it inline functions. If it's going to have multiple steps, like go declare a table variable, go put some stuff into it, go hit some other table, that's a stored procedure. So do it as a stored procedure there. But as long as it's just relatively short, you can do it in an inline function. It works beautifully. And Daniel's a very nice person as well. And I'm not just saying that because he's often on the stream. He actually is a really nice guy. Very smart too as well. So over the break, before I came back in, I was like, there's one other way that I want to sort the results. Let's see if they don't ask questions. Here's how I'm going to sort it. So what I sorted by is click-through ratio. I said, show me stuff with a really crappy click-through ratio, but at least 1,000 impressions. Things that people are seeing, but they just don't care at all about clicking on. And I'm also interested in stuff where I'm on the home page, ideally, like things that I'm on the home page, but people still aren't clicking on me. Stuff like this, when you're down at like 61 or 70, that's where it's really interesting, and that you suck really bad, but people are still searching for something. If you want to write new content, that's an interesting way to do it. It's really funny, like an HP C-Class blade chassis review. I wrote that more than a decade ago when I worked for an enterprise company. We bought a blade chassis. And I was like, you never see reviews of these things, and I should write a review. And I now know why you don't see people. It is like Google's S people, it's cash. Now I know why you don't see people writing reviews on that stuff, because it's a whole lot of work to amass the knowledge necessary to build a review, and then you don't really get that much traffic from it. So I'm going to change it so that I'm also only looking for stuff where my average position is on the front page. So let's go over to advanced filters, and we'll say average position is less than 11. So that way I'm only looking at stuff where I'm on the home page of results, and we'll see where I'm sucking. All right. So the top one we already knew. People are just querying for how do I do selects? And I'm like, I don't have time in the day to write that kind of crap. Second one, what? 10 ways to tell if your SQL Server is a clown car? I forgot I even wrote that post. Number 2, 10 ways to tell if your SQL Server is a clown car. What in the name of all that's holy are people searching for that puts me on the home page of 10 ways to tell that your SQL Server is a clown car? Okay. All right, so people are looking for images, most likely, of clown cars. And I know this because when I went to go write that post, I was trying to find pictures of clowns getting out of a car. pictures that were Creative Commons licensed so I could actually reuse them, which kind of tells you that if you wanted to suddenly get a lot of hits, go to I don't know that they even have parades anymore, but go to a parade and take pictures of clowns getting out of a car. And at first you got to find a parade that actually has clowns getting out of a car, but that you would do really well. I am obviously not going to go in there. That is not something that I'm going to search engine optimize for, but it is hilarious. I'm going to pop it out in a new window just so, because I don't remember. Wow, I actually have a picture of clowns in a car. And if you click on that, I only have the JPEG. I assume now it makes me curious as to how I got that, or like where I found that from or licensed it. So I'm kind of curious about how that works. All right, so that's fine. I'm definitely not going to tune that one. There's Ola Holmgren's again. So number 3 is Ola Holmgren's. 4 is the video post we looked at a little while ago where it just happens to be on Google's home pages. Wow, of course, free upcoming live classes. So in May, I wrote a blog post about free upcoming classes. Marjan says, is this cool analytics offered by WordPress? No, but it's free. This is Google Analytics, and it's totally free. And there are easy plugins that you can put into WordPress to put it in. It's total piece of cake. WordPress has their own analytics thing called Jetpack, but the problem is it's not integrated into Google Search at all. So it doesn't do you that much good to tell you where the search questions are coming from. So that for me is the whole reason that you use Google Analytics. You want to find what people are searching for, and any other analytics platform out there won't have that data. So it also pays off if you do advertising on Google. Like from time to time, we'll do product advertising, like during our Black Fridays, to get people to come to the site. And so then you can see what percentage of them clicked through and bought stuff, how much it cost you for the advertising. That's like a long, far out benefit, but the big immediate benefit is the search engine results. Totally worth it. And you don't have to pay anything. It's totally free. So the clown car, the GitHub, and then free upcoming live classes. Okay, so free upcoming live classes, what are people searching for? Because that's probably something that I should write about again. It's been a while since I wrote, of course. Oh, that's so awesome. You know why that's so awesome? Is I search for that, not for my own net worth, because I have a fairly good idea of what I'm worth. But I am totally the kind of person who, when I'm watching a movie or I'm like, oh, that actor's really good, I wonder how they're doing, I will totally search for that. So we got to go look. Is there anything out there that has Brent Ozar net worth? That is so funny. Brent Ozar net worth. Oh, that's great. $1 million. That's just finally fantastic. That was back when I did my Epic Life Quest and we crossed $1 million revenue inside a year. We're now up around $2 million. Okay, so that's interesting. That's very funny. Brent Ozar net worth. Okay, so that I'm clearly not going to. I am a billionaire in query bucks because my queries cost so terribly much. So that no lock, the free upcoming live classes, I think that that's in there just because of people are searching for Brent Ozar, and so the free one kind of comes up. No, somebody had like $1.5 million in their salary results. I don't put mine in because I feel like I skew it because I'm not really a SQL Server professional anymore. I'm a SQL Server amateur, but I'm more of a like business person, so it's less about SQL Server for me. The query bucks are gone because I had to eject from the Twitch affiliate program. If you're a Twitch affiliate or partner, you're not allowed to simul stream on both YouTube, Facebook, etc. If you're going to be a Twitch partner and make money from Twitch, you have to give them exclusivity on your live streams. You can't stream that same content for 24 hours. So I could do that, and I was making $250 a month ballpark from my Twitch stream. So if I stayed on Twitch exclusively, I would make about $250 a month. Who cares? Compared to I can also reach people on YouTube and Facebook, and then they gradually buy more training, stuff like that. So it's worth more for long term. Those are odd. So a lot of these I'm not as worried about. So I can see why click-through ratio didn't work that well there. But I'm going to edit click-through ratio because I'm also going to say, give me ones where clicks is greater than, let's say, 100. Because I want to get rid of stuff like the net worth kind of thing, which was hilarious. But all right. So here we go. So now we get some interesting stuff. Ooh. All right, so I'm actually going to skip some of those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter for the URL is also contains a blog post. So let's say landing page containing archive, because in WordPress, all your blog post archives begin with the word archive. So now I'm just looking at blog posts. All right. So as a reminder here, I'm sorting by click-through ratio. So these are ones where I'm losing a lot of people, where people aren't actually clicking through on the results. I've made it onto the home page. So my page is in here. I'm ranking. I'm just not up that high. So these are ones where I'm down fairly low on the page. If I put some work into here, I might be able to rise higher on the page. No Lock, we've already looked at. The Twitter one, I don't care. Consulting lines is a series of posts that I did about when you're a consultant, here are lines that you can use. And in there, just to give you a rough idea, even if you don't have a hard stop at a particular time, I always, when I'm talking through meetings, I always say I have a hard stop at whatever the time is that the meeting's supposed to end, because I want to respect my family time. You know, that I want to be able to leave the meeting and go do whatever. So whenever I'm working with anybody, I will always say, just so you were aware, the meeting has a hard stop at this time. I have another thing that I have to go and do. So, and people are very good about honoring that. And then I'm like, if you need more time, then we'll talk about setting up a time and you can pay me for that and all that. But I just don't do free above and beyond our meeting times. Because I mean, you know, especially in this day and age, when we're all working from home, you feel like your meetings could never end. You could just stay here in your home office for whatever length of time. I'll tell you all a secret. I don't always go and get coffee and bagel downstairs at 8. Sometimes I just tell you I'm going because I want to stop streaming. Because you're not as much fun as you think you are. That's not true. You're actually a lot of fun. New Stack Overflow database available. I don't really care about ranking for that. What queries does Microsoft's telemetry run on your server? Oh, that's interesting. And then also Microsoft's guidance on, all of these are good. All of these are very good. What queries does Microsoft's telemetry run on your server? It is hard to compete with a bagel in so many ways. That's actually interesting. We're on the home page, but we're down near the bottom. What are people searching for? Let's go see that out of curiosity. What are people searching for? I'm amazed that people would search for that. That was one of those ones that I wrote just as a throwaway, just so that my regular, wow, wow, wow. Oh, there is a blog post coming here. I can see exactly why people are searching for this. There isn't jack out there about what this is, and I bet most of you don't even know what this is. So Microsoft has this service, and I forget whether it came out in 2016, 2017, whatever it is, has this service that from time to time pops up, and so it's I want to say customer experience or continuous improvement kind of thing, where what the service does is it pops up, it runs a bunch of diagnostic queries against your server and phones the results home to Microsoft. Well, what I've run into at several clients is all of a sudden during an ugly workload, this thing fires up and causes blocking. Now, I haven't hit it in probably a year or two, so I would assume that they fixed it with a patch because Microsoft's decently good, and they're diligent about. They don't want to kill your server. I say this. I don't really know if this is true. I just give them the benefit of the doubt because I'm a total optimist. But I don't think that they really want to kill your server. I think that they want to improve and not make it so bad. So this is a great question. They make it hard as hell, and you can only do it for standard and enterprise. You can't do it for developer and express, which I find is kind of nasty because people have PII inside of Express, and the telemetry service actually phones home with PII. and Microsoft gets all nervous and tries to dance around it, but your error logs, queries can all have PII in them, personally identifiable information. You can say things like select star from customers where customer name equals Christopher Stiles and balance is greater than $1 million and prefers buttless chaps equals 1. That you can get enough stuff out of those queries, it would be bad for to go out publicly. So we are totally writing a blog post about this, and we are totally going to do, I could even do that live on the video Zero's Records Returned. That's pretty good. So the questions that I'm going to want to ask is, what is this service? What does it do? Why does it use so much CPU? And how do you disable it? Oh, that's gold. Now, is that going to directly produce me any revenue as a consultant or trainer or whatever? No, not directly, but because people have that kind of question, they'll remember me later when they come back and hit me for other query results. So I am totally writing about that. I'm going to go grab a screenshot of just that, just so that I've got it. That's gold. Now, the blog post that they came to was, what queries does SQL Server's telemetry service run on your server? I'm going to edit that post now just to get a head start on that, because people are obviously finding it. They're just not clicking through on the page. Well, let's go fix that. Let's go copy that URL out and let's paste it in here. I'm also going to search for that just to see what people find. SQL Server CIP service. And let's see what comes up. I've never even heard of MS SQL Fun. That's how you know you have all kinds of headroom available for blogging, when the top 2 results you've never even heard of. So that's great. Those results are terrible. That's fantastic. Easy low-hanging fruit there. People also ask, what is the SQL Server CEIP service? What's the browser service used for? That's actually a really good question too. STIG viewer. Oh, nice. So this is Department of Defense thing as well. STIGs are Department of Defense security type requirements. All right, so now to edit this post, people aren't going to know that the CEIP service is telemetry. CGS says, I thought you had a lot of pending blog posts. I have a GitHub repository with like 50 blog posts that I want to write right now, 55. It's been a little while since I looked into it. But do I need more to write? No, but I'll prioritize stuff if I think it's going to reach a lot of customers quickly. So what queries does it now? Instead of calling it the telemetry service, I'm going to say CIP run on your SQL server, because that's the name of the service. And instead of now I'm going to turn around and make it you. So you've seen the CIP service on your SQL server, and you're wondering what queries it runs and how it sends that information back to Microsoft. I was wondering too, because I started seeing queries running that I didn't expect. Let's see here. Let's go. All right, good. So the telemetry service known as CIP. Let's see if I got any heading. The CIP service gets the CIP searches for this is really funny for those of you who haven't seen. So they're actually looking for some databases by name, including AdventureWorks. Why Microsoft needs to know if you're running AdventureWorks, I have no idea. That makes no sense to me. Most of the CIP services, let me go back up there. Up. So several of y'all said 444. 444. The smart 44. And absolutely terrible. There you go. Good job. Thank you. I appreciate it. Are uncommented, but the security ones seem to have comments. the CIP service checks your storage speed. Come down further. SQL CIP checks to see if your databases are encrypted. 404. Let's see here. Okay, y'all are my kinds of jokes. And then summary. A summary of the CIP service. Okay, now, so instead of saying summary, I'm going to say, can you turn off? So, can you disable the CIP service? Okay, perfect. All right, good. Oh, there was the same cap on the pick. Let's go back and see. Well, let's just do Control F and say 4.4. Yay! No. Oh, it's not in there. Okay, that's cool. All right, so. All right, good. I'll stop the CIP. All right, update. There we go. So now, I didn't change the content of it. I'm just like, okay, sure, whatever, there it is. But at least now the people who are searching for the CIP service know that this post is about that, and as opposed to just telemetry. And so what I expect that to do is, on this post, where, come around a little here, so on this post for, oh, I was wearing the same hat. Oh, that's what you're saying? Oh, yeah. I only have like a dozen hats, and I used to buy more, but then what you learn, of course, with hats is that they don't all fit right. You know, some of them fit kind of wonky, or they hurt when you wear them for an extended period of time. And now, of course, looking back with the quarantines, I wish I would have bought more hats, but because I don't have a haircut. I have a haircut appointment this afternoon at 4 p.m. or so. But so our local haircut place, one of the many near my apartment, is doing them outside in tents, which is kind of cool. Not intense, but in tents. You know what I mean? So what I expect to happen there is that the Erica's hairdressers. So what I expect to happen there is that the number of impressions probably won't go up because I was already on the homepage, but now more people will click on it because it's more relevant to CEIP. Because it is CEIP, maybe this will actually go up, that it'll rank higher in impressions as well. All right, I'm very happy with that. Let's pop back out here and just talk for a second. So CJ says that explains why there's a green gash in your head. Yeah, we actually talked about that at the beginning of the stream too as well. So this really is how you go about rolling the snowball downhill, how you go about going back to your old posts and making sure that they're ever so slightly more relevant to the people who are searching for them today. As a blogger, I'm always amazed at the posts that I thought would catch fire. The things that I thought people would really be interested in often aren't. And then sometimes posts that I thought were just kind of throwaways become huge. The telemetry service, that was really for me a throwaway of, I was trying to run something in the lab, and then all of a sudden I was having all these blocking problems with SP who is active, and I'm like, these aren't even my queries. So to know that that's still big, how many years ago was that? Oh, that was only a year, just over a year ago, a year and a half ago, to know that that's getting that many impressions. So as a small business person, you know, we've spent like 2 hours this morning working on that. It becomes a question of how do you divide up your time? How do you figure out how much time you should spend on stuff like this? Well, if I can improve a half a dozen or a dozen of my older posts relatively quickly, then it's just easy tending to the garden, gradually getting yourself more readers. So let's talk about consulting for a second and how that, consulting and training and how that pays off. I specialize in a very short consulting engagement. I specialize in a 2-day SQL critical care. Well, if my engagements are only 2 days long, I need a hell of a lot of them. It's very rare, it does happen, but it's fairly rare that I sign on with a client for a longer period of time. Because usually I'm kind of like an emergency room surgeon. I'm like, let me just get you bandaged up and get you off to the races, and you don't need me anymore. Just got to, put some pants on you and you're going to be fine. Just go out there and stop putting your hand into the weed whacker. Because SQL Server has so many pitfalls. Y'all see me talk about pitfalls all the time when we'll be running a query and you'll be like, I'm like, oh, that wasn't supposed to behave that way. And we have fun going after it. So because I specialize in really short engagements, I tend to need a lot of them. So it means that I have, Margin says, how do you earn from these blog posts? So I need to build up awareness amongst a lot of people. I need, I'm like an emergency room surgeon. Y'all don't have that many emergencies. Out of the vast majority of you watching this webcast, hardly any of you hire me for consulting. But when you do put your hand in the weed whacker and things are going terribly awry, you tend to remember me. You're like, because this happens all the time with managers. Managers go, well, we found this guy, Brent's blog posts every time we search for something, and he always seems to be friendly and have the right answer, and he cuts straight to the chase and gives us the right answer. Why don't we just call him? And it's the same thing with open source software. So I write SP Blitz. I'm not the only author, but I maintain SP Blitz, Blitz Cache, Blitz First, all these things. I maintain all those things, give them away for free, teach people how to use them, write blog posts about how to use them. So people will Google for them, and then they'll run the script and they'll get overwhelmed. They'll be like, oh my God, this has so many problems. And we kind of sort of understand what's going on, but not really. And then that's when they'll go, just screw it. Let's just call him. Just call them and go. So that's how the blog posts make money, is it's a really long bet on inbound marketing. Savage Nav says, how did you find out, or how did you get started with getting clients when you started? It was this. I had blog posts, and people would call me or email me and say, hey, I'm having a problem with X. You've written blog posts about that. Can you come in and help me with that? So I was working for a company, Quest Software, where I was a software evangelist or a SQL Server evangelist, and I would go and teach people how to do SQL Server stuff because I'd been a DBA for years, and I'm like, all right, let me teach you all how to do this, and I didn't charge anything. It was just public. Here you go. And I always said at the end of presentations, if you need help, talk to me. That you can go email me, and I can tell you more about how to solve the kinds of problems that you're up against. But the company that I worked for, Quest, would let me consult on the side. I said, as long as I wasn't consulting for a company that competed with Quest, and as long as it didn't interfere with my day job, I could do consulting after hours or weekends. So I started getting enough of those. I kept blogging and owning my own brand, that I would do it at brentozar.com. I didn't want to blog on someone else's site. I wanted to build up a reputation for myself over time. Built up enough of those that I started getting enough consulting requirements that I said to my boss, hey, can I take vacation time, the normal paid vacation time that I would use, and go do consulting then? And they were like, sure, we don't care what you do when you're on your consulting engagements, or on your vacation. Just make sure that you come back to work energized, that you're not drained out, because we want to get good time out of you. And I said, okay, that's cool, totally get it. And I started burning through more and more of my vacation time. Eventually, I ran out of vacation time. I love vacations. They're magical. So I ran out of vacation time, and so I said to my boss, can I take unpaid vacation time? And they were like, you're doing okay on your work. Yes, let's just keep an eye on, how many unpaid days it is. So I said to the clients, when clients would call up, I had one client, the one that pushed me over the edge, said, we need you on site in this state that's in the middle of the U.S. that I don't have an easy way to get to. It would have been a 6-hour car ride. There wasn't a convenient airport to it either. It would have been a 6-hour car ride, so I would have lost, like a day on the either side. And they wanted me for a week there, and they said, what would your rate be for coming on site with this? And it has to be on site. We don't allow remote. And I said, $5,000 a day. I said, $5,000 a day, and it's going to be a week, so that's $25,000. And they said, okay, well, let's get that scheduled. And at that point, I'm like, and that was the moment where I gave up my day job. I was like, okay, so if there are companies out there that are willing to pay me $5,000 a day to come in on site and do something, I need to do that. I need to do that thing for a living. I'm lucky enough that I enjoy it too. I mean, I wouldn't go to the Bering Sea for $5,000 a day. I probably would pay to go just as a visitor, but I would want a really nice cabin. So that was how I shifted gears into that. But it was a really long road getting to that point of, that was 2008. I had been blogging for 9 years at that point, like 8-9 years. So it's a long road. I was also disciplined that I required myself to publish at least 2 blog posts a week. So I tended to do, for a while it was Tuesdays and Thursdays. For another while it was like Mondays and Wednesdays. But I was like, every twice a week, I'm going to get a blog post out. And I still do that today. Today it's 3 posts a week. For the last few months, it's been Monday through Wednesday. I'm switching gears a little and doing it Tuesday through Thursday again. But you got to keep putting out content, and it needs to be content that pays you back by bringing clients in. You can't just write funny posts alone. I write a lot of funny posts, but I got to know that those are just wasting my time in terms of I do them for my own fun. It's not going to pay me $1 going forward, but I need to write posts that will get people into the site. So that the telemetry service post, when I write a post on SQL CEIP, no one's going to call me at the end of that post. No one's going to say, okay, Brent knew this. We got to go pay this guy, $5,000. Instead, that's just a matter of the kind of customers that I have will be searching for that. So I'm going to write it as there won't be, now call now, operators are standing by. It'll be very much a, hey, this is just to show you that I know things that you want to know the answer to. And so then eventually you'll either hire me for training or hire me for consulting. So that's how the long tail works out. So to bring that back with what we talked about at the start of the post, I think I had that markdown or Typora page up. Didn't I have it up here? Yeah, here we go. So at the start of the post, we talked about there are 2 types of, or at the start of the video, we talked about there are 2 types of blog posts, or 2 types of marketing, outbound and inbound. Outbound is when you pay someone else to bring people into your site. Like you go and hire ads, you go pay Google, you pay YouTube, Facebook to bring people into your site. Inbound marketing is when you write really good content and people find you. You don't make $1. This takes a really long time in order to pay off. It takes years to see results, and you got to be committed the whole time. Like you have to publish at least a blog post a week, if not 2 blog posts a week. And it's not that the blog posts are going to be gold when you first start doing it. If you go back and look at my blog posts from the early years, they're terrible. They're so bad, and they're so unrelated to SQL Server because I was still finding my wheels of what is it that I want to write about. So this is the work. The webcast today was really about the work that you have to do for inbound content. If you want to make money on this, if you want to make money by writing good content, there are other sites that you can go write content at. So I'll give you one of my favorite examples out there, MS SQL Tips. MSSQLtips.com, and it's going to one specific post. I'm just going to go to their homepage. MS SQL Tips gives you can go write tips for, I forget the number, if it's like 50, 75, $100 per post. It's somewhere in there. And they have editorial standards. They want to make sure that they're at least a certain quality. But if you want to make money quickly blogging, that's the more easily doable way. It's just that you're not going to make a lot. At 50 to $100 a blog post, if you do 2 a week, overall, that's 2 times. Let's say it's $100. I don't know, but say it's $100 a piece. $200 a week, $800 a month. That sounds like a lot initially, and it is. Don't get me wrong. It's a very nice car payment, but at $800 a month, you're not going to pay your mortgage. You're not going to make a living exclusively on that. Whereas if you're committed to doing 2 posts a month or 2 posts a week for the next 5 years, you can build a consulting business around that. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. We'll stop there and switch over to, I'm going to go downstairs as far as you know. I'm going to go to, which is actually true, I am going to do today. I'm out of pizza. I do have oatmeal left, but I already had oatmeal at like 4 a.m. this morning. I'm not really interested in doing a double bowl of oatmeal. I'd rather go downstairs and get a lox and bagel and a coffee. So I forgot, I tried ordering it earlier. The coffee shop that I have downstairs, the building's coffee shop downstairs, has a web-based ordering thing. Well, they open at 8. They turn the coffee ordering on ahead of time, but they don't turn the food ordering on ahead of time. So I have to wait until exactly 8 a.m., and then I can go place my food order. I'm like, oh, come on, what the hell is that? So one of these days I need to ask them about that just to go see what's going on with that. That's everything I wanted to teach you all this week. This week, I'll probably do a live stream Monday and Friday, but the timing is gonna be a little weird. I have a client Monday and Friday, so it's a 2-day SQL critical care, but I just had existing stuff framed in around. I have coffee. This is cold, and it's espresso, and I need lox and bagel. I need something to eat. So I have a 2-day SQL critical care that frames up Monday and Friday, but I'll have time on those days, so I'll probably do a live stream. I have a couple of things I need to do on the first responder kit, and I might live stream the CEIP blog post. I might live stream that piece. So no times yet. It'll just depend on whatever my availability is. That'll be Monday and Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, I really want to I want to do the statistics, playing cards and statistics. And I figured out how I'm going to do it. So here's what I'm going to do. So I was really struggling with camera angles. I was really struggling with how do I stream this to y'all where you see, I have 2 things that I need to show to you. Not right now, but when I do the live stream, I'm going to use a set of playing cards to explain statistics. I'm going to put some cards down on the desk. I'm going to act like these are the rows inside my table, and then we're going to take statistics on those cards. I'm going to do 1 stat on the denomination, 1 stat on the suit, so that you can see how they interact, especially when we run queries. Well, I want to show both of those, and I want to kind of show them side by side. So I'm like, how do I do that and show me? Because I want to show my face as I'm talking to you and doing this stuff. And I'm like having the hardest time figuring out how I'm going to lay the cameras out in my office and what you're going to see, like what's going to be up on the screen. Do I do it as a split screen? Do I do it left and right and all this? I had a much better breakthrough idea. Here's the idea. I'm going to mount 1 camera, and I'm going to shoot it down from above so that you're looking at, well, I can actually show you this. Here, hold on a second. I'm going to switch to the pause screen only because the pause screen has this camera right here, which is an iPhone. So I can pick it up, and I can kind of show you what you're going to be doing. So here, I'm going to have 1 camera angle that's mounted up above my desk so that you can see my hands as I'm going through and laying out different cards. You're going to get seasickness if I don't hold this thing steady. So holding out different cards and then taking the statistics and writing the statistics down, that of course has to be high resolution. It's got to be very nice. So I'm going to take this camera right here. This camera has a whole adjustable arm, and I can hover it up above my desk. So then that's where what you're going to be seeing in terms of the cards. But I'm like, now how do you see my face as I'm explaining the story? Here's what I'm going to do. And this is going to be freaking bananas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take SQL Server Management Studio. Let's go fire it up. So I'm going to take SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm going to pretend that I'm writing queries inside there. I'm going to go in and start talking about playing cards and statistics. I'm going to do a query. I'm going to open this up so that you can see part of the demo. So I'm going to do playing cards. So you see how I've already got some of the demo stuff. And let's see, we'll go ahead and switch into the Stack Overflow database. We'll drop this table if it exists. We'll create the table. It's going to host the playing cards. We're going to put the playing cards into here. Then I'm going to go select the data out of there so that you can go see it. So in here, we're going to have denomination and suit. I am going to add in another tab here. Now, obviously, I don't have the source code to SSMS and I can't compile it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to Photoshop in another tab so that when I touch a button on my streaming software, I can make this other tab appear and call it, say, the go for is actually, it tells the query to go 4 times. So it'll say like live data. When I click over on this, I'm going to have my streaming software switch over to show my hands on the table. And I'm going to be like, look, I've got this behind the scenes thing in SQL Server Management Studio where you can actually see what it's doing. And it turns out it's actually storing this data as playing cards. So then I'm going to walk through and explain how the thing works. Now, y'all are already used to seeing me hover over SQL Server Management Studio. So it's going to work beautifully in that I can frame the queries up top, the hands down on the bottom, and then me over the whole thing. So the whole thing will work live. Oh, I'm so tickled pink with it. The downside is that I only have 2 cameras. I only have 2 good cameras. So the one camera is going to be here. The second camera is going to have to be down below this level or up high. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do, these camera stands that I have go all the way up to the ceiling. So I'm going to put one of them on a zoom lens going up high and shooting straight down so you can't see it, so that it's not quite as obvious where the cameras and all that are situated at. But that means out of my 2 good cameras, that's going to get rid of this camera angle over here. During that stream, I won't be able to turn to the side and have explanation type stuff unless I go buy another camera. And my wife is probably going to kill me if I buy one more camera this week. So I do, you see in the webcasts, I use other stuff like an iPhone on a tripod. This is one of the things that I use for the in-office behind the scenes type cameras, but the resolution on that isn't quite as good. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, that gives you a little behind the scenes on how I'm going to pull that thing off. I'm so excited. So the version that y'all will see, I'll do a rough one. I'm thinking I'm going to probably do it either Saturday or Sunday. We'll see how it goes with the camera placement and all. But we'll do a rough one so that y'all can see how my first initial rehearsal type thing goes. And then I'll do a very polished one where I won't show your chats on screen. I'll record it live with y'all just so that you can see it happening. But I'll do a very polished one. And then the polished one will go in probably as a training class, probably as a paid training class. But I'll leave it on when we're doing it live. Y'all will be able to watch it live just to see how it works. All right, so that's everything that I wanted to show y'all today. I really hope that you enjoy that one too, because I'm really trying to channel my inner Alton Brown. Now, Mesut, you're absolutely right. You're completely right. So what that is, because this is totally wireless, this is using NDA's or NDI's broadcast software. So this will live stream the camera from anywhere in the house. What I love about that is that then I can go put that in other places, like during the breaks, I can show you, for example, my coffee machine. So I'm going to go leave this over next to our coffee machine so that you can see it during the break when I go bail out and go leave. So there's that all set up so that now when I go and close the webcast, you'll be able to see my coffee machine. One of my 4 coffee machines. I have a coffee problem. All right, so that's everything that Marjan says, do you inform in advance when the training is going to be? So I do streams every Saturday and Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Pacific. So Saturday and Sunday at 6 a.m. Pacific. The rest of the time is all ad hoc, just based on whenever my calendar is available. When an opening pops up in my schedule, then I just hop in and start streaming. All right, so that's everything. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to go downstairs, get my lox and bagel. I have to go order it now that it's exactly 8 a.m. here in California. And then I get to goof off. I tell you, I have always wanted, I'll give you all one other behind the scenes type thing. I've always wanted a house where my office was in the garage. So there's a person, and I want to say it's Tenster on Instagram. Let's see, Tenster Instagram, I think is the one. Don't make me log in. Yes. So I don't want to log in, but I'll just zoom in so you can see it. So there's this person, Tenster, who has in his house has a glass garage where he can just sit and work. He's a photographer and sit and work and see his cars the whole time. I'm like, oh, I would always love that. And we found one in San Diego, and it's for sale. So we're going to look at it today, too, as well, just out of morbid curiosity, because I'm like, oh, that would be an incredible bucket list. Are we going to do it anytime soon? Probably not, but it's really neat to just go and see. I'm like, how does the other half live? Because that would be amazing. But Helmut's still not back, so it's still not back. He's coming back later, probably next week. So I've talked to the dealer or the sound place, and they're working on him today, or working on him this week. So, all right, so we'll stop here, and I will see y'all Monday and Friday, and then the scheduled stream on Saturday and Sunday. Adios, y'all. Now you get to go look at my coffee machine.